And still more on political stories here. The campaign train, still up and running, hasn't been derailed. State governors seeking re-election have continued to woo voters as the 2019 governorship elections get closer. Now in Edo State, the All Progressives Congress says more projects will be carried out in Ego local government area if the party has more representatives at the National Assembly level. While up north, governors of Katsina, Sokoto states, they're wooing more voters ahead of the elections.
There's more politicking ahead of elections which begin next month. In Edo State, the All Progressives Congress says there will be more projects for the people of Ego local government area if the party has more representatives at the National Assembly from the Southern Senatorial District. Governor Godwin Obaseki told supporters that his administration has not enjoyed adequate support from the opposition lawmakers representing the area.
In the last 2 years, I have been working alone. For me to do more than I'm doing, I need your help so that we can send our own to Abuja to represent us in the Senate. Because without that, they will continue to cheat us.
Elsewhere, chairs greeted the governor of Katsina State, Aminu Masari, as he led members of his party to woo voters in Kufor, his hometown, and Malamfashi local government area. He promised to leave a good name and capital legacy for the people.
You know if I really do the right things or otherwise. But all what I promised you during my 2015 electioneering campaign remains the same with this particular campaign. By God's grace, I'll leave a good name and capital legacy for you in Katsina State to the extent that whenever a person from Kafur is seen, he'll be given priority.
Sokoto State Governor Aminu Tambuwal has promised to consolidate on his administration's achievements if re-elected. Speaking at the flag-off of the People's Democratic Party campaign in Binji Town, Governor Tambuwal says his party will ensure the massive crowd at its campaign rally translate to electoral victory.
The public have seen for itself how PDP is being supported here in Sokoto State. And there is no better and more eloquent testimony of how on ground PDP is in Sokoto than this very, very mammoth crowd. And by the grace of God, we shall sustain the sensitization and the momentum until the elections day.
In the meantime, the National Orientation Agency is putting measures in place to reduce cases of invalid and void votes, as seen during the 2015 general elections.
Instead of the people to be the drivers, the election of credible candidates, we have to go to the courts to decide whether citizen A or citizen B is the winner of an election. Whether because of the incidences from ballot votes, the winning votes compared to the voided votes must have to call for a run or whatever. So these are all things that we must have to address and address squarely.
Continuation of campaigns by political parties and their candidates and sensitization of voters by different government agencies are geared towards ensuring massive participation of the electorate when the polls open next month.
For the first time since the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt, River State, nullified all APC primaries in the state, Governor Nyesom Wike has come face-to-face with his APC opponent, Toye Cole and Akuku Peterside, at a single gathering. The three men came together at an event to mark the burial service of the late king of Eleme, King Saul Oluka Ejire, in Eleme, River State. Although no seeming political comments were made, the political actors were not seen exchanging pleasantries. The governor called on the elders and people of Eleme to ensure the emergence of the next king through a peaceful process.
With the Eleme people, particularly the 10 communities that make up the Eleme kingdom. I'm surprised you know how do I know that Eleme is made up of 10 communities. I couldn't have come here to look for a vote when I don't know the composition of Eleme. So you know I'm from Eleme kingdom. So I will appeal to you to please, it's only one person that will be a king of Elebe. You will not have two kings. It is whoever that God said that will be. But let it be that you bring a very humble person that will continue the peace path of Elebe.
To legal matters, the scheduled trial of Mr. Gbenga Makondrola, a Deputy Chief of Staff to the President of Senate, Dr. Bukola Saraki, alongside two others over an alleged 3.5 billion naira Paris Club loan, cannot go on at the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos today. That's because the trial judge, Justice Babs Koewumi, has been transferred from the Lagos division of the court. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission had on October the 7th, 2018, arraigned Makondrola alongside a cashier in the Senate President's office and the operations manager of his service company, allegedly used as a conduit pipe in the said fraud. The anti-graft agency had told the court that they had conspired sometime in December 2016 to disguise the origin of the sum of 3.5 billion naira, which was paid into Melrose General Services Limited account with Access Bank PLC. The defendants pleaded not guilty to the charges. A building in the Faculty of Humanities at the Imo State University in Owerri has been gutted by fire, which destroyed documents and academic equipment worth millions of naira. The cause of the fire is yet unknown, but a source says the fire started around 3 a.m. and affected almost all the lecturers' offices in the faculty. Channels Television also gathered that much damage had been done before firefighters arrived at the scene.
Nobody can actually pin on this and say this is what actually happened. You just renovated the building last 6 months. The third funding assessment project. We just entered here last November. And a few months after, that is it. From what you've seen, most of the offices went down, frames, books, journals, laptops, and the materials. Most of this is a fact. You can't just say this is the exact amount, but going through it the way it should be is worth billions. And it's not something most of us will come over in 2-3 years. The hard-earned work gone down, books, research materials, journals, and the rest of them.
Elsewhere, in a bid to reduce the abuse of drugs and dangerous substances in Nigeria, the Presidential Advisory Committee on the Elimination of Drug Abuse has been assured of support from the police. The Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, made this pledge at a meeting with members of the committee, saying there must be conscious efforts by all stakeholders to ensure the success of the committee. He reiterated the need for youths to refrain from abusing drugs and engaging in criminal activities.
The issue of drug abuse is at the center of this meeting, as the chairman of the Presidential Advisory Committee on the Elimination of Drug Abuse leads members of the committee to the force headquarters. He explains the reason behind the visit.
The purpose of the visit today by the Presidential Advisory Committee for the Elimination of Drug Abuse in Nigeria is in furtherance of our work. The IGP was right there when we were inaugurated. And our marching order was to find sustainable strategies for the elimination of drug abuse in this great country. And we have set about this work by first engaging the key stakeholders.
After listening to his guest, the Inspector General of Police pledges the commitment of the police to collaborate with the committee.
The setting up of this committee at a time drug abuse has caused so much damage to the lives of not just youth, but other age brackets of this country is quite apt. It is imperative to state that conscious attempt aimed at mitigating the influence of drug abuse in our society will go a long way in carving a clear future for Nigerian populace where crime, criminality, mental disorder and other incidences and elements associated with the menace are eliminated. However, the Nigerian Police Force is ready to partner with the Presidential Committee to ensure that the intervention measures put in place to nip the bud in the threat of drug abuse on the nation's socio-economic growth, security and welfare.
The meeting, which continued behind closed doors, is aimed at establishing a synergy between the committee and the Nigeria Police Force as critical stakeholders.
Let's bring you some business news now. Here's Emana Amawe.
You First. First Bank.
Hello and welcome to Business News. The Minister of Finance, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, has issued a cheque of 100 billion naira from the Sukuk bond to the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing to finance road projects across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. During the presentation in Abuja, the minister explained that she believes the intervention will help address road infrastructure gaps in Nigeria.
In line with federal government's commitment to the funding of infrastructure, the proceeds will be used to further support budgeted capital spending for 2018. The construction and rehabilitation of 28 key economic roads across the 6 geopolitical zones of our country. Each of the 6 political zones has an equal allocation of 16.67 billion naira. The roads will ease commuting. The roads will spur economic activities across our country and further close our infrastructure gap.
Nigeria's export-backed financial institution, NEXIM Bank, is promoting the export of non-oil sector produce through the northwest region of the country. At a 2-day meeting with entrepreneurs and exporters in Katsina, the agency signed a memorandum of understanding with the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria for the actualization of this objective. The Nigerian equities market records its first gain for 2019 as the total volume of transaction increased by 64% at the close of today's trading. Edidi Ongiwang has more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. After 6 consecutive days of losses, Nigerian stocks managed about 0.5% gain on Thursday as short-term investors hunt for good bargains in key sectors. The sentiment for low-price value stocks was evident in key sectors like banking and industrial goods. In terms of big transactions of the day, custodian insurance led by 120.2 million shares, followed by Access Bank and FBN Holdings. As investors look for positions in liquid stocks, the general index climbed 0.62% and the Naira value of all listed securities returned to the 11 trillion level it lost on Wednesday. Now check the primary indicators table and you can see investors active in 3,600 transactions made on 385.29 million shares worth more than 3 billion naira. And that was the Stock Market Report. I'm Edidi Ongiwang.
Thank you, Edidiong. Meanwhile, lower than expected Chinese inflation data and the announcement of job cuts by automakers had some impact on major stock markets across Asia and Europe at the close of today's trading. Let's find out how the U.S. markets fared at the close of trade an hour ago. And that's our package on business news tonight. I'm Emana Amawe. It's back to you, Millicent.
You First. First Bank.
Thank you, Romana. Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria Football Federation confirms 10 international friendly matches for the Super Falcons ahead of the Women's World Cup. That's in sports news. Please stay with us.